Hello and welcome to the Daily Climate Show. Coming up today, the European Union passes a landmark law banning the import of products like beef and coffee that are linked to deforestation. Businesses are urged to treat nature loss with as much importance as they do climate change or risk major consequences for the economy. And this year's Remembrance Day poppy goes green as it becomes plastic-free for the first time in more than 100 years. Hello and welcome to the Daily Climate Show, where we track the changes to our world and investigate some of the potential solutions to the climate crisis. Now, the European Parliament has passed a landmark law banning the importation of products linked to deforestation. Companies importing commodities like coffee, soy and palm oil will now be required to carry out due diligence on their origins or risk substantial fines. Let's speak to our Europe correspondent, Adam Parsons, who's in Brussels for us today. Adam, thanks so much for talking to us. This is a big step, isn't it?
It is a big step. This is the European Parliament, and I have to say, voting pretty much unanimously to push this through. European Union in recent years really has tried to position itself as a global leader in coming up with politically workable solutions to all these questions around climate change and sustainability. So although this one still has a bit of a way to go, it's got through the European Parliament, has to be approved by all of the EU's 27 member states. I think this is a significant landmark because what it does is oblige companies to assure the EU that no forests have been destroyed, that deforestation has not taken place in the production of a wide range of products. I mean, it goes wood, coffee, rubber, charcoal, soy, beef, and of course we have seen so many times these images of rainforests being destroyed en masse to make space for these products. So the companies are going to have to show that there was no deforestation to get these things to market. Some countries, I have to say, including Malaysia and Indonesia, have pushed back. They say this is going to really reduce their market access. I think the EU might say, well, yeah, exactly, that's precisely what we're going for. Some smaller companies have said that this is going to cause them problems because they're going to struggle to come up with all of the data and the geolocation that the EU is asking for. My feeling is that the EU will say in response, this is too big a problem for us to ignore. And this has been welcomed by a variety of organisations, not least Greenpeace.
OK, Adam, thank you. Right, well, some of today's other stories now. And Australia has announced new standards for vehicle emissions to boost the uptake of electric cars. Transport is the third largest source of carbon emissions in Australia. It's estimated the move to greener travel could cut those emissions by 3 tonnes by 2030. Less than 4% of cars sold in Australia last year were electric. That's compared to 17% in Europe. Tunisia has ordered its population to ration their water usage as the country grapples with its 5th consecutive year of drought. The lack of rainfall means that some of Tunisia's 30 dams are now completely dry. To protect water reserves, authorities are cutting water supplies between 8 p.m. and 3 a.m. until September, but there are calls for a better public information campaign.
After these procedures, a booklet should have been published explaining about water consumption, storage, timing and the quantity allowed to be stored. That is why we consider these measures incomplete, because before taking any measure, the citizen must be made aware of the importance of conserving water.
And a new environmentally friendly poppy will be released for this year's Remembrance Day. The historic symbol will be plastic-free and made of paper for the first time since it was introduced 102 years ago. 50% of the material will come from discarded coffee cups, with the rest made from renewable fibres. In its Living Planet report last year, the WWF published the staggering statistic that global wildlife populations have plummeted nearly 70% since 1970. Now, businesses are being warned that they need to treat nature loss with as much importance as they do climate change. The consulting firm PwC says that more than half of the global economy is either moderately or highly dependent on nature. Let's speak to Will Everson, who is the Sustainability Director at PwC. Will, thank you so much for talking to us. So why do you think businesses and industry need to put that much importance on nature loss?
Thanks for inviting me on the show. What our new research shows is how businesses are exposed to nature-related risk, and importantly, what they can do about it. And what we find, as you mentioned, is that over half of global GDP, that's $58 trillion, is moderately or highly dependent on nature. That's sectors like consumer goods, food and beverage, agriculture, mining and metals, even energy generation and distribution. We also looked at global stock markets in the analysis. And if we take the UK, for example, we find that 47% of the market cap on the London Stock Exchange is exposed to those same kind of nature risks.
Were you surprised that in your research, it wasn't just businesses, but of the 22 industries that you looked at, 7 of them have 100% of their operations dependent on nature?
Yeah, it is remarkable, and I guess it highlights that extent to which we are dependent on nature. You know, we often don't think about it, but it provides our fundamental life support systems. You know, it provides the air we breathe and the water we drink. And for businesses, it provides, you know, all of those critical resources from, you know, fiber. We were just hearing about the deforestation law, you know, fiber and timber for construction, for paper, but also, you know, plants for genetic research, plants for pharmaceutical products. And it also protects firms' operations from you know, things like floods.
And if the status quo continues, what are you most concerned about?
I think it is concerning, and what we looked at, you know, when we say moderately or highly dependent on nature, we're saying that on reasonable expectations of ecological decline, that value is at risk. Now, that's actually why today we launched our Centre for Nature Positive Business to really help our clients, the organisations we work with, accelerate a nature positive and net zero transition.
Well, that's my
and
next
fundamentally.
question. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Will.
I was just going to say, you know, fundamentally, organizations need to be looking at how they can move from being unintentionally nature negative to intentionally nature positive, how they can build a nature positive strategy. What does their business model look like in a nature positive future?
So that's my next question. Is there still time to get ahead of this?
I think yes, but we're right on the cusp, right? We're facing a climate crisis that we hear a lot about through your excellent show. There's also a nature crisis going on. Scientists are warning us about the pending ecological collapse. And we're right at the cusp. And I think that's the reason why we have this, you know, real call to action today.
Okay, well, thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you very much.
Right, now before we go, a reminder that the Climate Show with Tom Heap is back this weekend. And this week is a special programme on the age of climate activism. You can watch it on Saturday and Sunday at 3 p.m. and 7:30 p.m. Well, that's all from us today. Thank you so much for watching. The team will be back again tomorrow. See you then.